Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Sel's Unboxing. If you'd like to know what interesting LEGO sets we'll be reviewing next, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell button. We've bought and built one of the latest LEGO sets that we just can't wait to review with all of you, and it'll surely bring back all those nostalgic moments. This is what we're reviewing this week. LEGO number 72046 Game Boy. But first, let me tell you about my Game Boy story. I didn't come from a rich family, so everything back in my days was considered expensive. A gaming console like the very first Nintendo Famicom in Japan or NES in North America was completely out of reach, though my brother eventually got one, and please don't ask me why. But even as a kid with no internet at that time, we still heard news about new toys and stuff coming out from time to time, and Game Boy was definitely one of them on my wish list. But how could a little boy with no job and very little pocket money afford one at all? So one day, I went over my savings passbook to see how much from all the red envelope money I saved up during Chinese New Year so far, and I was like, I think I can get mine at last. I secretly went to the bank downstairs, told the teller I wanted to withdraw everything from my savings, and bought my very own Game Boy with the Tetris game bundle. My brother and I were completely overjoyed and kept hiding under blanket to play at night. And oh, there's nothing called backlight for dot magic screen at that time, so you can imagine how hard it is when we're trying to play in the dark. But that's not the end of the story. As a very obedient son, I could hardly cover both my joy and my lie, and my mom quickly found out that all my savings were gone. So I had to tell her that I used the money to buy a Game Boy. My mom was of course infuriated, but to my surprise she let me keep the Game Boy but with limited screen time like nowadays, instead of confiscated it. Seeing that I had my own Game Boy, my mom eventually bought one for my brother without using his own money. Yeah, I know it sucks and it's truly the WTF moment, but maybe that's also why I'll save up to buy things I want to this date. Anyways, childhood story aside, let's get back to our featured presentation and have a look at the cover first. It has a very nice, sleek box design, similar to how the Game Boy looked like. And LEGO boxes these years have a very cool, darker look to accent the main sets, except for those for younger builders with more vibrant illustrations. It has only 421 pieces to complete the set, but most of them actually go inside the LEGO Game Boy interior that will be hard to see. Let's take out for a detailed look. Oops, not this one. Almost got you, eh? This is actually my actual Game Boy that I has been in possession for long, but it's an important prop because we're going to do some comparisons after. And this is the real LEGO set and the instruction manual. Before we take a further look at the LEGO set, let's talk about the menu first. The design team has put in a lot of information and details of the original Game Boy that eventually inspires this set. On the front, we can see the assembled LEGO Game Boy, and on the back, we have the actual handheld machine. Even the pages inside contain the details of the Game Boy and the Game Pak cartridges. So I have to take off my gloves to show it. They also show the interior of the Game Boy. Let me just go to it. And here, so you can have a glance of the internal skeleton before you assemble all the gray bricks on it. Let's have a look at the other pages. It's just like going down the memory lane. And that's also why I still keep all the manuals even after building the sets. Gloves on. Now let's have a comparison of the LEGO Game Boy with the authentic one that I have both in here. As you can see, the two have almost the identical size and dimensions, not to mention the same gray tone and the button layouts. Mine is a little bit yellowish, but even the weights are very similar. We have a screen size about the same as each other, the D-pad, and the A-B buttons that you can actually press and they'll bounce back like the real thing. One issue is the bounce back effect of the A-B buttons for the LEGO set is achieved by the rubber band underneath, so eventually it will break and we may have to take out quite a lot of parts to replace it. The words for start, select, Nintendo Game Boy, phones, and the dot matrix with stereo sound at the top of the screen are faithfully recreated, as we can see from the actual Game Boy in here too. Although for some reason, the words on the two bricks of mine are not aligned properly. Come on, LEGO, you could have done better with the printing. Anyways, I've been wondering how they are going to replicate the start and the select buttons, and they've used a smart way to do so. Two soft round rings, and it does feel good when pressing. Now let's check out the side. On the left, we have the black contrast wheel, and on the right, we have the black volume wheel. And the use of the gear type wheels make them feel and turn like we could adjust the contrast and volume. Oh, and this is to cover the port for linking some external peripherals similar to a USB port, like the co-op play cable, external light, etc. For my original one, the cover is long lost, but I'm alright with that. Now let's have a look at the back. Both look like twins, and we can also see the slot where we can insert the Game Paks in. I have the LEGO Game Boy 1 inserted. The texture of the battery cover is also replicated, although we can't really open the battery compartment or put any AA batteries inside. Now here's a little detail I want to show you. We see in here that this is supposed to be the unique serial number of a Game Boy, but for the LEGO one, we see it's written as G19890421, which was the day when Game Boy was released in Japan, April 21st, 1989. So if you know, you know. LEGO gives us a total of 3 lenticular cards to mimic the screens, and I've installed one in the Game Boy already. And here are the other 2 that matches with the Game Pak titles. So if we adjust the lenticular cards at different angles, like this, or the Mario one, or the Zelda one, hope you can see. It's like they are really moving, so we can have the same feeling of booting up the Game Boy or in gameplay. And to change that, we just need to turn to the back and remove the back panel with the serial number, get rid of the Game Pak, and you see we lift the lever in here that is used to secure the lenticular card in place. And then swap with the one we want to display with. And don't forget to place the lever and the cover back after. The one thing I appreciate the most of the whole LEGO Game Boy set is definitely this one, the power button. The designer has done an incredible job that when we toggle the power button in either way, ooh, it really feels like turning the Game Boy on and on off. You really need to try it yourself to feel it. That's the brilliant use of the right combination of bricks. And we have the headphone jack at the bottom too, even though we can't put real headphones on, but it still looks great. Now let's put the LEGO Game Boy aside and have a look at the Game Pak cartridges. Unfortunately, I tried to look for just one Game Boy cartridge in my parents' house over the weekend, but I just couldn't even find one. Most likely my mom just hid all of them away, and I can't really do a direct comparison with the LEGO counterpart with you. But as we can see, the color scheme, the printing, the labels and wording, and even this little notch in here when it's powered on to lock in the cartridges are just like the original design. And they gave us 2 cartridges so we can swap from the Game Boy, including the Super Mario Land and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Funny thing is, I never bought either of these 2 games, and I only borrowed Super Mario Land from my cousin to play and finish countless times. And that's also one hidden feature with The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Game Pak that's not obvious from the outside. But if we take away a few bricks, just give me a moment. You can see this, a round brick to replicate the lithium battery built in the Game Pak. Other Game Boy games may not have it because we could just finish the game in one sitting, but when it comes to RPGs like Zelda, it's not just a matter of a day or 2. So Nintendo needed to put in a lithium battery inside to save the state so we could boot up the Game Boy to resume. Like I said, once it's covered, it probably won't see the light of day anymore, but it's the hard and small details of what the LEGO team put in that counts. And don't forget the 2 stands that we can place our Game Boy, 1 Game Pak, and the extra lenticular cards behind for proper storage and display. So you may be asking, well, at the end of the day, it's still built with LEGO bricks, and you can't really play with it. With LEGO sets come billions of ideas, and there are already modders out there who have integrated the heart of a real Game Boy in this LEGO appearance to actually make it playable. For me, I don't have the technical skills to make it possible or transferable, but I'm sure you can find some online tutorials to do so, provided you can find a working Game Boy first. So that's it for this episode of Soul's Unboxing. If you enjoyed this review video, please give us a thumbs up, leave your comments below, and share with others who lived through this fond memory. Now, I have to go back to my desk and keep building more LEGO sets so I can review some with you later. See you all next time. Happy building and gaming.